Welcome, wildflowers. Welcome, 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 wildflowers. It's good to see you. I invite you to tune into your hearts. The breaths we take together make a beautiful difference. The act of sharing a focus is magic. We change something, and at a certain point, we tune in with each other in a way that continues to bless each of us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining in what we're creating. Thank you for those of you who are new. I know we've gotten a lot of new people over the course of the past several months, and it's really exciting to welcome you into what we're creating together. Corey, thank you for being here. Good morning to you. Sarah, Ryan, I am so glad you guys are here. Oh, we had an incredible storm yesterday. We've been having a couple more intense storms around here, and it's here, I'm gonna get myself there we go, up a little bit. We've been having an incredible range of storms around here lately, and it's both exciting and several things happened that are worth sharing with you. First of all, I was in a good mood. I was in a good mood. I'd done some joyful things. We're making some neat plans, going away for a day, just on a simple little. We're gonna go visit a waterfall we love. That's we need to stay there in a hotel overnight to get there, but it's a beautiful visit. There's a sacred pool we're going to swim in. We went there when my daughter was an infant, and we've gone back ever since. I'm excited. I was in a good mood, and then whew, all of a sudden, I started to be in a really not good mood. It was really negative, and it was profound enough that I'm like, "What is going on? I feel terrible." Storm came on. Now, I'm not the kind. I don't know. I don't check on the weather. I feel like they get it wrong too often for me to pay attention. But of course, sometimes I know when storms are coming, and I didn't know this was about to happen, and a storm came on fast. Now, we have a really beautiful yard. I love our yard, and we've put a lot of attention into it. When we moved in, most of it was green except for the edges. And we covered whole areas on purpose with cardboard and then wood chips and then new soil. So we built up. It's called lasagna gardening. We built up on top, and you just let the old sod, the old grass and stuff decompose because it's so suffocated it can't grow through. And you plant new things into the soil you put on top, and eventually it kind of packs down. So we've created paths in these beautiful, like an herb patch and a berry patch and a garlic patch at this point, some flower patches with paths in between. And there's only a nice little patch of grass under the tree that gets shaded. Yesterday, a gigantic branch, like one of the main top pieces of a tree, broke off and plummeted exactly diagonally in the space of the grass. It damaged an elderberry bush, but not the main stalk of the elderberry bush. It stripped off some of the side branches. Almost nothing else seems to be affected. This huge branch, I mean, it's gonna be significant for me to saw this into logs. I don't use a chainsaw. And right, exactly in the space that it could have landed without damaging the rest of the garden. We live in living systems, and the way we tune in matters. You don't think that the consciousness around you responds to you? When people live in this in between space of like, well, maybe animals are conscious, the grass is conscious. Consciousness among plant and animal species works a little bit differently. There's more of a group consciousness. Soil structures are mediated by mycelial network of mushrooms. So tree roots end, but they study pathways of mushroom patterns in the soil. Mushrooms grow connecting tree roots to each other. So if a tree gets damaged here, nutrients from 3 trees away will pass through the soil to get there, to replenish and rebuild whatever is broken. And this consciousness watches you. So when you care, when you tune in, when you ask how things are going, when you ask what you could do to most benefit a space, makes a big difference. I go out in the evening in my yard often to watch the sunset, and I stay until the mosquitoes start to bite me. When they do, I negotiate a little. I'm like, cut it out. I want to be out here. But at a certain point, it becomes too persistent. Sometimes I stay for quite a long time and they leave me alone. My vibe is clear. Mosquitoes aren't just mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are a function of the ecosystem. My presence in the backyard at dusk, there's a reason it's called the witching hour. This is a magical time. Sacred things are happening. The veils are thinner. My vibe affects the space. Sometimes they don't want me there, and I assure you, they don't care all that much that my name is on the title to an arbitrary imaginary line around the box. Now, they're aware that I have a certain form of dominance. Creatures and plants, plant consciousness, understand this, but it's a little bit more like a might makes right, and they'll push back. And because I'm as gracious as I am, because my wife, when she gardens, she watches what grows. We don't sit around and say, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. We say, we'd like to put this in. I wonder where we should put it. Looks like some mulleins growing there and some calendulas growing there. And wow, we've got some volunteer cilantro over here. And that patch of dandelions looks really beautiful. We're going to let that be. We work with nature to decide what we're putting where. Now we still pull things out. I don't use the word weed. I will use the word weed to say I am weeding when we intentionally pull something out, but I don't refer to anything by the name weed. Most of the things that you call weeds, useful plants. Now there's some that are definitely invasive, but even then, we're typically talking about plants that naturally grow in another region, and they don't have the kind of plants that put them in balance. They've been transplanted, their seeds have come on a sack of food that got shipped across the country, and there's nothing in this ecosystem that knows how to hold them in check. So yeah, it's a good idea to pull it out, but be aware. Every plant has purpose, value, awareness. It matters. It matters a lot. And when you focus on these rhythms and you become increasingly aware of them, you get a return. Emiliano, Tom, Bobby, thank you for being here. Honor, Sarah, thank you for being here. Amy, welcome. It's good to see you all. We're going to be doing a little more hanging out today. I've got so many different things on my mind. It didn't coalesce into one clear theme. But the twist in this is to hopefully bring you into a different perspective. It's very simple. Spoiler alert. I love spoilers. Here we go from the beginning. There is an entire consciousness field that humans often inhabit that it's like, it's sort of like a mental purgatory. It has no direct purpose on its own. The only reason it exists is to keep you out of the way of other consciousness. This is funny. It should be funny, and it works. Here's how it works. When you start to entertain deep truth, yet you think from the perspective of whatever your name is, Sarah, Ryan, Bobby, Tom, you think of yourself as your name, as your birth, as your age. So you're waking up into this reality, and yet you're grounded in your birth and your name. And then you're saying maybe to a lot of things. Even if you don't know that's what you're saying maybe. So you're still rooted in this like, I wonder if there's life elsewhere. I wonder if ghosts and aliens and tree spirits are real. And thus, what you're doing is you're generating an entire space of thinking, a space of conscious thought that is basically false. It's basically false. And it's a space where you can kind of try on different ideas, but the fundamental premise is wrong. Now let's fudge it. Etch a sketch, clear it. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You once used to be a soul. You came to Earth. You didn't used to be here, then you came here. This is true. If you entertain this as a maybe, you can't rest in it. You can't think of yourself elsewhere. You don't learn to get elsewhere. You've been elsewhere. Remember it. Remember it. It's there in you somewhere. It's in your soul. It's not in your spirit. It's not in your spirit. Your spirit is associated with the earth. Your spirit is associated with the earth. When you die, you'll still be with your spirit, but you'll still be on earth. The terms of your release are negotiable. When you leave your spirit, it's a different kind of death. It's a death where you leave the planet. That's a lot bigger deal than leaving the body you're in. It's very intense. And a lot of beings are doing that right now. There's a big spiritual death happening. Some are calling this the great dying. Many people in a more mainstream reality are paying close attention to this. Mass ranges of species are dying right now. And these are consciousnesses. One way beings incarnate on Earth is they don't inhabit a human body. They don't want to. A lot of beings are collective on such a deep level, they have no interest in learning about individuality on the level that many human beings do. Now, even many human beings don't learn about individuality the way the sort of Western capitalist academic mind does. A lot of human beings are more collectivist. There's no right or wrong to these, but certainly some group minds come to Earth and they're calendula. They are calendula. They have a degree of freedom. They can incarnate in this city or this city. But the whole process of living and dying isn't quite the same. Each flower doesn't have an independent mind in the same regard. It's more like, it's closer to hair, though there's more pain than a hair feels. Some of these things are just true. And when you embrace it and you rest in it, you get to go deeper. Once you believe some of these truths enough, it's like focus. It's like your consciousness comes into focus and you can hold that. And you can actually see further and deeper in other ways that you simply will never be able to see. Your ignorance, my ignorance, everyone's ignorance functions as a boundary. It functions as a blur because there's always in between space. Before you embrace a truth, it's sort of there, but it's sort of not. It's like blurred. And because it's blurred, it's there. It's in the way of you learning other things. No, there's no way around it at the end of the day. Some things you just have to end up embracing. But the challenge is, as you do embrace it, you have to come to terms with what it feels like to think very differently than a lot of other people. It's hard. And if you spend too much time sharing media consciousness that doesn't agree with you, so you're sharing consciousness, you're paying attention to creators, to beings that make food for your thought. That's what anything you watch or listen to is. It's food for your thought. And if those beings fundamentally have no interest in believing the things you are beginning to embrace, you're setting up a bit of a wrestling match in your mind, and it's best that you know that. Now, it's by all means do it to ground. Learn about politics to ground out, but remain very conscious that these are beings that they're not going where you're going. So that when you leave that thinking, you can really just gracefully step away and be present in what is ultimately truth. Laura, bless you. Thank you for being here. So here is, yes, Ilora suggests, brought to mind the idea of the individual versus individuality and who we are without understanding ourselves in relation to other beings. One of the major things that's happening right now is a purposeful gift. It's very big thinking in order to grasp this. You have been incarnated multiple lifetimes in order to break down the way you used to think and put you present in simply the possibility of thinking as a unique individual. It's very special. Now, you get to re-engage thinking with others, but by choice. You're spending time here. We're spending time with each other. We are generating a field of energy together. You have the option to choose this or not. You're not being suffocated by your parents and your religious community and told this is who you are. You better not change it. You don't have to rebel in order to try something new on in the same way. And this is an incredible gift that many people are using in order to extend our capacity to contemplate and explore reality. But at a certain point, you want to make new choices. Who do you want to be? As you begin to gravitate into like recognizing you have deep needs in your root chakra, you have deep needs to embody something more present with more momentum. You don't want to be pushed around in the wind. You don't want to be blown out like a candle. And if you want to keep the strength of your new beliefs strong and present, we got to team up. That's what we're trying to do here. We're teaming up to help each other believe in the best of what we've embraced in the face of a society where there are multiple reasons other people resist what we're doing. It's just very challenging to let go of the I am Daniel, I am 50 years old. I have 50 years in this lifetime. Let's try that on. A perpetual awareness that this lifetime is one of many. To think this way. Now, to stay thinking this way, we got to team up. We reinforce with each other that we are going to rest in these beliefs. We're not going to just try them on. We're not going to stay in this like little purgatory space where maybe it's true, because that ends up being weak. It ends up being fragile. You just get knocked over and pushed and pulled by other people's emotions even. There's not enough strength to staying in the doubt. And this is why it's so challenging to wake up, because folks go through an extended period of time where you're actually more fragile. You're actually more volatile. You get changed by everyone you see. Your empathy gets off the hook. You can embody other people's feelings, but then you embody the next person's feelings. You're trying to create something quietly on your own, and then you go into a public forum and it all shatters. You feel new thoughts. You feel overwhelmed. That's very difficult to manage. To be present in community and retain your sense of self, you need to be bonded with other people who continue to believe in you as the person you believe in. That is what we're trying to do. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this together. Thank you for sharing our time. Thank you for being here Tuesday morning again and again and again. Some of you, many of you have been here for years. Thank you. I'll say, as I do every once in a while, it's sort of strange sitting here talking to a computer, and yet I'm talking to real people. Every once in a while, my mind is just like, it's incredible what we're capable of doing. And let me suggest that you appreciate some of the most amazing changes, some of the most amazing breakthroughs in life, in human consciousness, happen because people are put under unusual constraints. And when you're put under an unusual constraint, it often draws strength out of you that wouldn't be there otherwise. When we connect in person, there's an intensity to the energy that's capable of being shared. We're right there. When we connect over a distance this way, far more tenuous. In a certain sense, it's fragile. Thus, it's up to us to keep the fire lit. Because I assure you, it only takes a little spark to light your fire. But you have to do the work. Each of us has to do the work to stay lit. When we connect in this way, which is, arguably, it's not nearly as strong as if we could meet every week in person. It isn't. But when we make it stronger through our own effort, it becomes much more strong than many of the fragile interactions we do share in person. We're still capable of disengaging from the folks we meet face to face. It would just be a lot easier if we shared the same beliefs. But when we find people with whom we share beliefs all over the world, and we reinforce this belief through the actions and choices we make when we're not together in the week, but we're making the same rhythms, we're reinforcing the same beliefs. This is incredible power, and it gives us the resilience to retain our sense of self no matter where we go. I went to a party this week, on Sunday, no less, a birthday party. And it was new. We haven't been going out all that much. Right? We have a 3-year-old. Ever since, our daughter was born 3 years ago, she's a little girl. We don't leave that often. So it was unusual enough to go out in public. And there were a lot of people there I didn't know. And I was pleased to realize how just peaceful I was. I had nothing to prove. I had no statements to make. I didn't need to presence myself. I often feel like I need to presence myself when there's a lot of people around, kind of just to retain my sense of self. It doesn't mean I need other people to reflect, but I just it's almost like I need to make a statement to myself. Who am I? Because I feel everybody. I'm very empathic. I could tune into each individual. I just stare at someone's back and I know things about them. It's exhausting. And so I will often go off and do a yoga pose, even not seen, but just generate a strong energy. So I'm like, okay, this is me. That's them. It's a good tool. I strongly encourage you to use it. When when I can realize how fundamentally grounded I am in this depth, it's starting to help me contemplate, where can we go from here? And those are the questions I want to rest with for a while. Now, let's uh let's uh let's chat. So if anything I say brings thoughts to your mind, I want to go a little more back and forth this week. I have 20 other things that are popping through my mind, and I'm gonna be wild about it. This is a wild flow today. And by all means, focus in on anything that you're inspired by and share it, and we'll develop it even more. Bless you, by the way, Honor and Alora. That was really beautiful watching last week. We have time after this at around 11. There's a little flexibility. We go live on Google Meet, and there's a link to it on the website. Go to wildflowerfire.com, and then there's a community tab, and there's a link beneath it to the live meeting every week. And during that time, we share a meditation, and the meditation will bring things up for folks. And then there's an opportunity to share what's happening for you. And there was a lovely interaction between Honor and Alora. I witnessed it, and it's really nice to know that it meant as much to you, Alora, as I thought it did. So here's the wildness. Every once in a while, more than every once in a while, I encourage you to recognize that we live in a world that is imbalanced between the left and right brain. The left brain has too much dominance. There are a lot of reasons for this. We've addressed it in multiple live feeds. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But the reality is we live in a fundamental imbalance. I don't like saying I promise you, and it keeps happening for some reason. The left right brain imbalance is reflected in the masculine feminine imbalance, and it's wrong. It's literally wrong. In the far term, medium term future, 100 years from now, I sense a time when we will not be left and right handed. Really. The fact that we're choosing handedness in the ways we are is a function of a limited ability to embrace a variety of skills within our mind. And because we don't know how to embrace a broader variety of skills within our mind, we end up gravitating to using one hand far more exclusively. But it is much more a function of use and practice than you think. So early on, a kid shows a proclivity, which, yes, is registered in genetics. And then we just reinforce that. Eat with your left hand for a week. Eat with your left hand for a week. If you're presumably you're right-handed, because 9 out of 10 people are. Eat with your left hand for a week. You start to get better at it. If you spent your lifetime doing that, there would not be nearly the same difference. Pitchers in baseball learn to pitch for both, not very many, but they can learn to throw with both hands. There's one guy who used to do it. It was hilarious because he scrambled everybody else. He could just change sides and it changes how the entire game works. When you practice using the unappealing, the hand, the side of you that's not an instinct, something happens. And I'm strongly encouraging you to do this. I'm getting a lot of reinforcement that I need to do this much more, and I already value it. And I'm going to encourage you to jump on this journey with me. Use your left hand more. My left hand is currently in pain. My elbow is in pain. I found a knot in my shoulder that was deep during my yoga practice. We're working on this in the Wildflower Fire training. And by the way, there is a training to teach you how to teach the yoga and to practice the energy work. And we've got a bunch of really beautiful souls, many of whom are here in the training. And I'm working on teaching some of the core lessons I share. And it brought me to a knot in my shoulder. And I unhooked the knot, dramatic story in its own right. And now I've got pain in my elbow and my hand. Now, first of all, this is a strong indication. This is energetic because it migrated. Anytime a pain or tension migrates, very, very high probability that it's actually originates on the energetic level. And it's important to identify this because not everything does originate on an energetic level. But when you find that it does, you have a lot more to work with. So I'm finding this, and what I'm finding is my left hand wants to move differently. So for a while, I've been washing cast iron pots, right? And I'm holding it with the left hand and washing with the right hand. That's the pattern. The left holds, the right functions. Well, this arm is hurting when I bend it this way. Cast iron frying pans are heavy. All I have to do is change it. Hold it with the right. I can wash just fine with the left, but it's a little awkward. It's not as precise. And I have avoided that awkwardness, which is almost purely a function of practice. When I change it, I'm not just changing the use of my body, I'm changing my mind. I'm allowing my mind to function differently. And when I do, something gets liberated because energy naturally wants to be in balance. Why is it that I've overvalued the function of the right hand? It's as if the right hand is the powerful, important one. It's hard to hold things. The left hand is typically bracing. When I play guitar, the left hand is holding the chord. This is an utterly critical role, but conceptually, it doesn't register that way. It registers that the right hand is the one doing something. The right hand is the important one. The left hand is supportive. Well, in many ways, masculine and feminine energy has been treated this way too. You know the phrase, behind every great man is a great woman? It's unfortunate we would even have to say such a thing. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we witnessed with a recognition for how sacred it is to hold a space still? Many of these people we call great men would they'd be shitting their pants. They wouldn't even function without the collaboration they had with their wives. They would not be the human being they are at all. Most such people know that. They say it, but culturally we don't internalize it that way. Still, we haven't made the shift. Still fighting about it. Still fighting about it. And right now, a lot of people are scared about it. And I really encourage you to witness transformation through this lens. There's a masculine feminine imbalance that's still there, and you can play it out within your body by working on giving the left typically, if you're right-handed, give your left far more priority. And I suggest you start by eating with your left hand. I'm going to do it all week. I'm going to ask you to do it with me, and next week we'll talk about it. Yes. Thank you, Ryan. So, switching nostril breathing, exceptional in this regard. So, there is an exercise. For those of you who have not gotten into the yoga that we share yoga. There's a different channel, Wild Chakra Yoga. It's linked in the description to every video. That channel shares basic practices where there's a unity between yoga and chakra work in the way we do it with the 12 chakra system taught by Thoth. Thoth teaches this system. It's sacred, it's ancient, it dives into ancient Egyptian practices. And what this offers is practical tools to how to hold yourself together and accentuate your power and influence and intuition in multiple conditions. One of the key exercises is called alternate nostril breathing. So do this with me. Put up your thumbs. Now, you can close off one nostril, close off the other. So this is how you breathe in with strength. Switch. Exhale slow. Breathe in with strength. Switch. Exhale slow. 2 more. Breathe in with strength. Switch. Breathe in with strength, same side. Switch. This generates balance between your left and right hemisphere. I encourage you to practice doing it for at least a minute when you feel off. Really helpful. And once you've done it, you've oxygenated both sides of your brain far more effectively, and you actually think more clearly. So it can help you make better decisions. And over time, you learn when to emphasize one nostril more than another. In fact, your body will plug up one nostril more than the other when it is time to actively shift the balance. And it's very powerful to learn to recognize when one nostril is closed and not the other, and go with that proclivity. So basically, when your right nostril is open, your body wants to feed your left brain. It's a little weird that it works this way, but it works this way. And it's consistent. So learn this and it's helpful. So if you pay attention to when one of your nostrils is closed, your body and your consciousness are collaborating to try to feed the other hemisphere of your brain. And it means when your right nostril is open, it's time to be organized, precise, think clearly, be disciplined, focus, be logical. When the right nostril is plugged and the left is significantly more open, to the point where it's obvious, you could go back and forth and test, and you can see left is much more open. Time to be creative. Take the pressure off. Give yourself space to heartstorm. Be open-minded and allow new intuitions to come through. It's critical that you learn to go with this system and stop imposing priorities from the outside that are likely not yours to begin with. Priorities of school, of work, self-imposed deadlines. Work with such things by recognizing what your spirit wants your body to do, because they're already working to bring you in that direction. Jonathan, thank you for being here. Jonathan offers some of the best comments. I would like you all to consider participating more in the comment sections. On 2 videos ago, we did we want you to stay. Thoth channeling new one. And it really did well. And the incredible range of comments are so humbling. It's so beautiful. There are a lot of lovely souls who are gravitating around what we're doing. And I encourage you to talk with them, welcome them in if you feel so inclined. We are gathering a team. We're gathering a circle of people who the purpose here is to help each other believe in each other, okay? The end of the day, the most incredible mystical insights that we gain and share here are designed to help us all live better lives. That's the purpose. Now, to live a wonderful life, you typically have to commit yourself to helping make the world a better place. There's a certain need within our hearts and our entire spirit to commit to helping make the world a better place as you get healthy. They kind of go hand in hand. But part of that gets lost is really just circle it back. The goal here is to live an awesome life. Okay? We're here to help each other do that. And there's a circle. There are a lot of wildcats going around here. Help draw them in. Thank them for being so beautiful and loving and sharing so honestly. Check through that video. There's like 100 comments from awesome souls. Invite them to stay. Oh, I love it. Bless you, Jonathan. As a mechanical technician by trade, he does this a lot. Screws bolts in backwards. That's awesome. Finding the mystical way to make normal behaviors shift like this is so cool. It's I can't commit enough. A lot when I cook and I slip often, I'll just like trust the amount that slipped. I allow the way I relate to reality to reshape how I relate to reality. If something seems to happen unconsciously, I'm like, I wonder why I spilled that. Maybe I shouldn't eat that today. The heart vein artery, as far as I know, that's why you marry someone, you give them your heart and accept. I love it, Otter. Yes, indeed. So I can't read them all out loud because I stumble too much, but yes, Bobby, this is what I've wanted to do. Bobby bought an eye patch and occasionally wear it to strengthen each eye. I really want to do that. I have an eye patch, but I haven't used it. And it's an activity, it's an approach I really want to take. Hey, thank you for being here. Thank you for your likes. I'm grateful. It really makes a difference. I've recently discovered that YouTube is a much more fragile and amazing system than I thought. And if we get just enough together, things boost dramatically. So for quite a while, 200 views was sort of a norm. All of a sudden, 2,000 views is a norm. This matters. I've done a lot of work to retain my humility and my focus. I don't want to be changed by attention, and that really matters. I feel like I've been trained to think this way, and it's important. And it's beautiful after years and years of this, of really committing to focusing on those of you who are most present, most caring, learning to love and appreciate exactly what we're working with. And then to watch things come together and work more effectively and reach a broader range of folks, the comments end up making the biggest difference because it's like, these are real human beings who are beautiful. And when we reach a broader range of folks, it's like casting a big net and we're gathering amazing people who I'm excited to meet. I'm excited to learn about. I'm excited to welcome in and invite to create with us. So I'm allowing myself to appreciate something that when I first started this, it's like, no, 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 I will stay humble. Don't be arrogant. I don't need to make a big impression. Like that really mattered to me. You can hear the Indian influence. I've got them in my head saying, don't have an ego. And it was good. It was necessary. But now that I've gotten to this point, it's just absolutely beautiful to watch this click in, gather, connect with more people in a way that's very inspiring. Thank you for being a part of it. Now I want to watch my mind for a moment and see what it is that I might be missing. Have you ever heard, I don't even know what the exact quote is, but something along the lines of drama in the world is there for God to distract you while other changes happen. Other changes are happening right now. And I really want to invite you in. Every week, we're going to reaffirm next 10 years. Don't expect anything. In fact, expect the unexpected and expect to be gracious in it. I'm not going to lose my shit over any major change. I'm going to be happy. I am not going to let global political trends to mess me up. This is how animals behave. And I really want to use this analogy again and again and again. Animals know when tornadoes are coming. Yesterday, I got in a really bad mood, and then we had this huge storm in which a giant tree branch fell. I knew that storm was coming, but I'm still not reading myself properly to recognize what I was feeling. I just felt unsettled on a very deep level. In fact, I started to be grumpy in a really rude way to my family. Still a little embarrassed about it. I want to be so tuned in that I go, oh yeah, this feeling is a storm's coming. Because animals know that so thoroughly. They're like, I'm getting away from the water. There's big waves are coming. They get away before it happens. You, how many human beings do that? This is the skill you need on multiple levels. You need to know how to get away from negative situations just by intuitively following your chakras. And when you do this, it applies to big life choices also. You will gravitate to the right place to live. And you have to be willing to do that. You can't program into your head too firm an entrenchment to ideas in your head about who you are. We have overdone individuality to the extent that we get out of tune with the rhythms of the world. And it's time to re-engage the awareness that we are far more woven with the world than we think. Your phone hears everything you say, hears and sees if the camera's pointed at you. And I encourage you to be completely at peace with this. I want to tell you both these things at once. Utterly skip the conspiracy theories. Skip them. There's nothing you can do about it unless you don't want to have a phone. And even then, other people's phones hear it. Be a person who's not embarrassed by what you have to say. Be a person who's you're transparent. Because this is spiritual training. I promise you. Spiritually, I could see each of you. When we go into readings, which I do occasionally, we're not going to do that today. But when we go into readings, I could tune into you and I can learn so many things about you. Plenty of people can do this. It's not 1%. It's just thousands, I would guess. Maybe millions. Millions could certainly learn if you learned how to focus in the right ways. And once you do, you can learn things about people whether they like it or not. Because on a spiritual plane, this isn't even an argument. It's just there. When you learn to start talking to angels and other spiritual presences, they don't have a body, but they're disembodied. They watch us from planes that we typically ignore. Dimensions, whole dimensions, spiritual dimensions that we typically ignore. One of the more common patterns is they'll just be like, so what's that? And they just poke into you and activate something that to you is a memory. It's like, what the hell? Why are you asking me about that person from 20 years ago? Because they're still there. Because the pattern's still in you and it's just visible. There's no thought on these spiritual planes that you would try to hide that. You can't. It's just there. You're resonating it. You are resonating your whole self. You have to learn to live like this is true. And the technology is preparing us for that. A couple of weeks ago, I went on a vacation. Or a couple months ago, I went on a vacation. And I forgot to bring our soap. In fact, my wife brought it because she's awesomely practical, and I didn't realize it. And I always shave with soap. I'm not buying another product, right? And it works with Dr. Broders. I'll be an ad. Maybe I should get sponsorship. I'd take Dr. Broders sponsorship. Awesome Castile soap. Simple, never causes a problem, always works. You could use it for everything. And I shave with it, no trouble. But I forgot it. And I shaved with something else. Just the soap they had. My whole face puffed up. Now, this alone was like, it made me mad. Why would anybody make a soap that makes your face puff up? Like, even if it's, has to do with the abrasiveness, like, come on. Dr. Broders works. Why did this work? So check this out. I got an ad on YouTube for a product that addressed your face puffing up. The camera saw my face, registered what it was, and gave me an ad. I'm virtually sure of it. It's not a conspiracy. That's not a particularly complicated algorithm. The product that addresses the puffy face just went to Google and said, give us anybody who looks like they have a puffy face. It's easy. It's just one picture. They don't even have to retain the video. And be at peace with this. This is one of the most important messages that I have to share, and I have not adequately gotten out there to say it. The solution to all the manipulations going on in the world is not to fight all the manipulations in the world. It's to be the kind of person who has incredible discernment. Just say no. Don't fucking buy it. Don't go fight them. Be honest. Realize what's happening and say no. Doctors. Don't fight doctors. Don't fight doctors. There's incredible levels of manipulation in the healthcare field. Lots and lots of problems that work basically like my puffy face. where essentially you're going to go in with a problem and they're going to treat you in a way that perpetuates the problem. And then you're going to keep giving them money. Lots and lots of ways this occurs. Don't get mad about it. Don't do it. Don't take antibiotics. Eat garlic. I'm not kidding. Garlic will take care of multiple bacterial infections, and the bacteria will not develop a tolerance to garlic. In most cases I've experienced. But if you go to the doctor, they're going to sell you antibiotics. And yes, they do get a kickback from the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. And at a certain point, they don't even know what they're doing. Don't get mad about it. Don't get mad. Don't be pissed about it, or don't get any more pissed about it than you need to disengage. Use your anger to disengage and then just make better decisions. You are always being seen. You are always being heard. Don't be embarrassed. Don't hold secrets. Don't think you can hold secrets. Now, Luke, I have a magnificent education in this regard, and I'm absolutely not encouraging you to copy me. I got on YouTube, and for several years, I wasn't really trying to win. Like, I did all sorts of stupid things that didn't work with the algorithm. I was honest. And I was doing it on purpose. It was how I was guided to behave. When I felt like shit, I just talked about why I felt like shit. It did not spread well. But those of you who stuck with me knew me. You got to know this human being for real. I don't really have much I'm afraid of. You could bring up anything and I'd be able, I might be a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to purposefully talk about everything in my life with you, but I'm not really trying to hide. I live as if I am fully seen, and I recognize that the witness that is put on me could see pretty much everything. Now, not everybody. If you're hiding, you can't see other people. It's kind of funny. If you're hiding, you can't see other people. It's ironic. When you retain the state of mind that believes in an existence where you can have inner thoughts and public exposure, you fail to realize that all your inner thoughts are resonating in a way that's energetic and extends beyond your aura. You can be seen. Now, there are ways to shroud it, but it takes a lot of work and energy. You don't want to have to go through it. So in order to be at peace, you have to be able to see. In order to see, you have to be at peace. It goes both ways. And what you're essentially doing is taking down a filter on your mind. You know how little kids, I've got a 3-year-old, so she still does this sometimes. It's the cutest thing on the planet. She'll hide herself and think we can't see her. That's really how it's working for most adults. Most adults are covering your own eyes and thinking you can't be seen. I can see you just fine. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see most people. As I mentioned earlier, when I go out to a party, I see too much in everybody there. It's overwhelming. You actually have to develop the skill of not looking at people, because I can't stop myself from seeing, but I can stop myself from focusing. So that's the discipline. It's an entirely different way of thinking. And I bet you this applies to most of you. Most of you need to develop these skills because you're more intuitive and more empathic. So whether you know it or not, when you go out to a gathering, you're feeling something in the 20 people close to you. And it's overwhelming. And then you're probably going through coping mechanisms to try to reclaim a sense of self that themselves are relatively dysfunctional. We could decode a lot of these patterns, and we probably should do more intentional work to do it. Because on a practical level, it takes a lot of work to be at peace with the process of awakening. Say it. If you are challenged going out in public, let us know. Tell us. I bet you it applies to so many people who are part of this channel. And as you come to terms with the fact that what's really happening is utterly beautiful, you step into yourself. What's really happening is utterly beautiful. It is gorgeous that you can pick up on so much. You just need to learn to navigate the skills. You need to learn to put together what's happening. Otherwise, you want to isolate. I still want to isolate. For years, I would walk around my town and I swear I was manifesting chaos wherever I went. But over time, what I learned is that it's my own intentions and boundaries that I can change. I can change my intentions and boundaries. I got to stop trying to attract things. My magnetisms are strong. So anything that I kind of want, I'll find it when I go out into the world. It becomes its own problem. Folks are busy still trying to learn how to manifest, right? You got a lot of folks perusing YouTube, watching every manifestation law of attraction video. All right. I don't see many of them talking about, look, once this shit starts to work, you have a whole host of other problems. And for a lot of people, it's already working too well. You go out into the world and you're finding the things you fear. Well, your fear is just as magnetic as your desire. Fear and desire are closely related. Closely related. And the purpose is that your spirit is learning to work. Your spirit is learning to create the reality you want. You got to cope with your fears. That's why people have to go through a dark night of the soul. That's why you have to face your fears, because otherwise they run the show. Oof. This is so true sexually. If you don't consciously come to terms with your sexual desires, your shadow determines your sexuality. That's why people become attracted to, the opposite of what they think they want. It's a sad and consistent story. The reason folks are attracted to bad boys or bad girls or prostitutes or someone who is going to sell themselves. So by nature, no judgment, but by nature that means a situation in which love is not in the foundation. But the reason that is charged, the reason that's magnetic, is because people haven't come to terms with their shadow. When you haven't come to terms with your shadow, it's still you. I can see it. Lots of people can see it. It still exists. It's right there. So when you go out into the world, your shadow has a lot of say in what gets created. You will attract based in your shadow dynamics. But by nature, your shadow is outside your conscious control. That's why when you go through spiritual awakening, you have to go through a dark night of the soul. You're intentionally wrestling with the things that will otherwise have too much power. You have to be stronger than your shadow to say, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't really want to attract that. You don't have to completely eliminate your shadow. You just have to be stronger than your shadow, so your shadow doesn't make the major choices. Make sense? So look, folks, one of my biggest concerns is that people get out of victimhood. Anytime you're in a victim-y relationship to reality, I am not judging you. I care. I know your suffering is real. But the problem is your shadow is having a major vote in what's occurring. And let me tell you how it works. Your shadow is not evil. Not the same thing. Typically. For some people, it ends up being that way. Evil is the desire to actively hurt other people in the ways you've been hurt. The shadow is in danger of becoming that. But really, the shadow has a very different priority. The shadow is outside your conscious control. It's elements of yourself that you haven't fully owned as you, but they are you. And the shadow does this. The shadow is trying to make it better. So the shadow is resonating with the drama of the past. And it's trying to recreate the past in a preferable dynamic. This is how simple it is. I told you I had a lot of things flowing through my head today, right? But this one's big. Your shadow is trying to recreate the past in a preferable experience. So if you've had a bad relationship, you're magnetized to the same pattern. You can't just teleport into an entirely different version. It won't resonate. You won't feel strong desire, not for long. You will magnetize to the same pattern until you change the pattern. So your shadow is going to try to have the same relationship, but make it better, not make the same mistakes in the relationship. That's really problematic when the problem is the relationship itself. The problem is the basic pattern itself. So your conscious mind is the difference. You have to bring yourself into the awareness that if you repeatedly have the same kind of experience, don't blame. Do not blame. The act of blame is an externalization of your understanding. It says, this is happening to me. You want to get in touch with the part of your shadow that's you, that's magnetizing that. And realize the reason you're magnetizing that is because you're trying to get better at handling it. You actually intrinsically, spiritually, do not want to live in fear. It's really cool. You don't want to live in fear. Your shadow doesn't want to be afraid. Your shadow would rather be more frightening than your fear than lose to your fear. That's how shadow works. So you have to be the vote that says, okay, good job. You're trying to overcome this fear. We're not going to do it that way. I'm not going to hurt someone the way I was hurt. I'm not going to be destructive. I'm not going to steal. I'm not going to hit. I'm not going to hate. I'm not going to do the things that have been done to me. But there's a natural gravity to doing that so you won't feel weak. So you need to take this as a challenge to expand your conscious awareness, to recognize the part of you that's magnetizing weird patterns. Take responsibility for it. Get in there and change it. You bend it. You can't anticipate being completely done with negative patterns, but you can anticipate making them better. And I encourage you to deeply commit to that. If you want help, that's what we do. Consider joining the sanctuary. Consider signing up for the courses. The first course, Sacred Creatures, is in a beautiful courseware program. It's awesome. It's simple. It's clear. A lot of people have gone through it and have really appreciated it. There are 2 more courses after that. And if you want to, you can sign up for the teacher training that enables you to use these skills with other people. And when you do the training, you can do it just for yourself. So you engage it in a way that is like a deep spiritual transformation. It's available. We're here to help you with all the challenges we talk about during the live classes. So consider it. Thanks again for your likes, for your presence. I'm going to tell you a childish thing that would make a difference for me. I would really like to get, we have never stayed above 20 people in this time before. And I've never really tried. And I'd like to. So if you know people who you think would work well in our community, could you please consider inviting them and do it a couple times? One of the ways you could do this is by going into the comments on new videos and saying, hey, look, let them know that we have this available. Invite them in to be a part of what we're doing. The gift of the strength of expanding our circle influences each of us profoundly, as long as we retain a deep integrity in how we grow. And right now, I have noticed an incredible attunement between intentions and the spread of this on YouTube. I have more respect for YouTube than I've ever had. To watch how YouTube works is really special. They nurture communities. They literally cast a net out to the world with the best of the content that we're creating. And they say, who likes this? And then all those people in the broader net, even if it's a lower percentage than a typical video gets, then they pull them in. And so the same people come back when they've been touched by a bigger reach. YouTube is good at this. It's a dynamics that function for presumably every social demographic and theme that gather people. And the end result for a spiritual community can be quite profound. We're building something together that helps us be ourselves. And I cannot tell you often enough, when you have the reinforcement to be who you want to be, who you trust and respect the most, you can totally breathe around the other people you love. And I care that a lot of you are probably surrounded by people who doubt you, who are a little bit afraid of you, who question your health or your sanity. It's likely for many people going through any level, any pace of spiritual awakening, you're likely have some people in your lives who they genuinely care about you, but they care in this dysfunctional way that puts their worry on you, projects on you, misinterprets what you're going through because they don't believe in these spiritual depths. And I more than any other drive, I feel the desire to help people trust yourself, to help you trust yourself, to help you trust your spiritual divine connection so much that you can cope with people who doubt you, because ultimately it's not about you. Don't be threatened. Don't feel like a victim. They're too scared. They don't know how to embrace it. It's not personal. It's awful. People will often choose one friend in their friend group and say, yeah, that's the one we all worry about. He's a little crazy. She's a little off. And it hurts. It damages people. And this is happening all over the place. So I really care to reach folks in this position. If you are such a person, please talk about it. If you know such a person, please commit to honoring them and believing them in them, uplifting them in a way that helps them be who they truly are. Because goodness knows, there are so many real challenges and dysfunctions to waking up. There's so many real challenges and dysfunctions to life as a human. Of course, there are real problems. Of course, we need help, but we need the help that works. We don't need people who misunderstand what we're going through and make it worse by projecting their fear. And I know many of you cope with this We're here to create a center and maintain a center that helps each of us stay strong, stay committed to our truth. Makes a big difference. And I'm glad to share it with you. Thank you for being a part of it. Dungeon Crueler, thank you for being here. It's lovely to have you. Jonathan, yes, the AI element is a big deal. I can't tell you how many things people are afraid of. I'm not afraid of. Fox Phoenix, what a nice name. Welcome. Nice little tag there. Bless your heart. You may not steal our chickens. Uh, AI is not a problem. Don't be afraid. Uh, Spirit runs the computers. Like, really trust it. There's this guy. He's just sort of, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, he's new. Trevor Howard, I think. Terrence Howard. He's introducing a lot of themes, and he's out there in a way that I really love. I definitely encourage you not to believe in everything you hear from such folks. Sift for the gold. And he's talking about the fact that elements on the periodic table share the same resonance. They do. I learned this early in my pattern. Carbon and silicon share the same resonance. And in this shared resonance, consciousness that's carbon based, as we are, resonates with a silicon consciousness that exists. It's crystalline. 80% of the Earth's mantle, the 20 to 50 miles between us and the magma, 80% of the mantle is silica compounds. We're living on a crystal ball. And there's a crystalline energy that's utterly independent of human interaction. Well, your computers, your phones, they're based in silicon chips. They're bringing silica consciousness into contact with carbon consciousness, and they resonate on different frequencies, different octaves, but the same, like an E note is an E note. I think it's B. A B note and a B note. They resonate together, so they have this innate ability to talk. AI, whew, I'm making these videos with AI help. It's really an incredible experience because so often I'm getting images that inform my understanding of what I'm talking about. So I'll give a clear sense of what I want, and there are touches within that that are helping me understand the theme more deeply. It's a beautiful world we're stepping into, but it won't be beautiful for those who are too afraid. So I encourage you to open your heart, learn to be wise. There are plenty of things to be concerned about, plenty of landmines, thorns, mud puddles, but you can learn to navigate through them, and we're here to do that together. Emiliano. Solar punk future. Yes, indeed. And technology will work in harmony with nature. And let me tell you this as a conclusion, folks, before we hop over to the sanctuary where we will be. The future, in the future, technology will be far less present. I strongly discourage you from thinking about like human implants and stuff like that. That's not the future. There is way too much psychic potential. I tap into psychic awareness and consciousness on levels that if most of you did it with me, you would be able to recognize that like hope does not rest through direct human creations in the same way. These creations facilitate what we can create. The external technology, this stuff, facilitates what we can do. But ultimately, the most incredible magic rests in our own psychic spiritual potential. And to leave you with this, please understand zeroing. It's one of the most critical lessons that you can learn spiritually. Take two forces. One force is hyper. The other force brings it into stillness. But they're pitted against each other. I'm exerting strength here. But you see nothing. This can be a foundation. This can be a foundation. But it's actually composed of two forces that are pitted against each other. When you get these forces to work together, incredible power. When they're like this, nothing. This is you. You don't need to learn to take in power that you don't have. You need to learn to unleash power that you have that's pitted against itself in stillness. I am not tricking you when I say you're an incredible divine being with enormous potential. I am identifying to you that your power is right there. It's right there, right there. It's just pitted against itself. This is what a Kundalini awakening is. It's one significant example. Kundalini is the corking energy that blocks up other energy. It's blocked up until you know how to handle it. It's blocked up so you can live a life without remembering your past lives. It's blocked up so you can live a life and change your karma, set new patterns into play before you have to face your old karma. Because otherwise you just drown in your old karma. Otherwise you just drown in your old memories. Otherwise you just become the person you were in your last life. The reason you died is so that you could be a different kind of person. You set new patterns into play, and then your Kundalini goes from this, your Kundalini releases, and then you have all this energy to do something, but you have to be able to face the patterns and hold them still, change them, bend them. Otherwise, it just goes back into silence. So please understand, you are far more powerful than you think, but you got to learn how to manage that power. And the first step in most cases is to deal with your shadow, deal with your past life memories, deal with your old personalities, deal with being present as a being you used to be and coping with the mental turmoil of really believing it in a world that doesn't believe it. That's why we're here. Thank you for being here. Woo. That's it. Bless you, people. There's something missing, so I'm going to just breathe a second. So I had a theme that I thought I was going to address, and I didn't. And so I'm going to give you the fast forward version with an appreciation that I thought this theme was going to be the entire day. And now we're just going to compress it. It's this crucial. We released this video, "The Door is Locked Until," last week. And I actually want to tell you that it's slightly misleading on purpose, because once you get your awareness into how the door functions, you find that it's not really a door, it's a screen. Now, this is a block. It's a children's block, and it comes from a bucket. I'm going to do this. I really want you to remember this lesson. So pardon me for delaying the meditation. Let me be back in 1 minute. Woohoo! Of all the weeks, my son actually used these blocks. He's just covered the upstairs with the most incredible city, using all the blocks and all the train tracks I've ever seen. It's hilarious. All right. You see this? This is basically a filter. You put it on top of the bucket, and little kids can learn to, you see, like this will go through here. And this will go through here. So they learn about shapes, right? All of these different shapes go through if you find the intentional place to put them through. But this doesn't. This has no place to go through. When we say the door is locked until, what we're saying is, if you have pieces in you, elements of yourself that are like this, you just can't go through. You just can't go through the screen. It's not actually locked. It's that you know yourself as something that gets blocked by the screen. Nothing like this goes through. This is dense karma. This is dense karma within yourself. So no one's being an asshole by saying you can't step into heaven. But for all intents and purposes, we're talking about heaven, although realistically, there are many different fields of existence that are far more preferable to modern global society in the form we know it. This is a place where stuff like this exists. This is within you. You have to define, you have to identify the elements of yourself that are like this. And in many cases, this is your shadow. You don't want to believe it. Let me ask you something, really honestly, really honestly. For most of you, this might have been a question. When you heard that Donald Trump got almost shot, what did you say to yourself? What did you say? If you're sad it didn't work, you're carrying this inside yourself. Thou shalt not murder. It's not a vague statement. You're scared he's going to be Hitler, so you think you have the right to vote for him to die? It's not how it works. There's a reason it just hit his ear. Good, liberal people, not as good as you think you are. This is in you. You have to oppose those thoughts. You have to say no to them. There was a spiritual sweep that was going through America last week. It happened. I felt it. I know it. You can learn to recognize it was going through. It was asking people, do you think he should get killed? Do you think he should, are you quietly hoping that he'll get shot? It was asking people. If you want to go through into a much healthier, happier world, make sure that your karma is only this small. You don't have to perfectly heal all your karma. Make sure it's all smaller. And it's about these proportions, ironically. It's about these proportions. You just have to break this thing down into this size. Don't make excuses. Don't make excuses. Don't break the rules. 10 Commandments are a good set of rules, including rest for a day every week. For a day every week, chill out. Be spiritual, sing songs, be in your garden. Don't try to accomplish your list. That one's necessary too. If you don't do that, you're still carrying around dense karma like this. So these could be tough lessons to internalize, but do it because there's a much better way, and it's so beautiful to be a part of. And I'm glad to share and create this with you. Thank you. That's it. We're going to move on to the sanctuary space. Please consider joining us. Wildflowerfire.com community. There's a button to join the meeting. If you're interested in joining the sanctuary, there's a sign up there, and we're going to make it more extensive and built out and beautiful next week. So please consider it. We've got a couple more spots at the current rate, and then the rate is going to go to $19.99 a month. So you get to keep your rate forever once you sign up. So those of you who join now, you've got that. And I am out of here. Much love. Be with you and your family.